Manish. I'm part of Azure Cosmos DB engineering team, and you all already know that we are running Scalable AI Series, which is a monthly series for showcasing our partners who have developed a solution and offering using Azure Cosmos DB and GenAI. And today I'm excited to welcome Kunal. Kunal is the Chief Growth Officer in IBM Neudesic, which is an IBM company, and he's driving global strategy and partnership uh, with a focus on, I think, modernization and the AI innovation. And he leads the initiative acceleration with focus on client acceleration and market leadership. So welcome on board, Kunal. What's up?
Thank you, Manish. Appreciate you having me here, and excited to talk about the awesomeness that we're seeing across our customers and strategic innovation projects.
Awesome. So without any delay, let's directly go to leadership fireside chat. And here I wanted to ask you a few questions and wanted to seek your perspective. So my first question is, towards the industry, uh, leaning towards GenAI. So what are some
Review perspective, my ecosystem, call it that. Um, so from my purview perspective, my ecosystem ownership, the idea of AI being that transformative technology. AI itself, it's been around for a while, but this concept of automation to now generative AI has been pretty interesting over the last couple of years, across what I would call legacy businesses, regulated businesses, and to some degree even uh, government focused on this transformation is an amazing thing to see and observe. Talking about challenges, I feel some of these challenges are equally opportunities, but the idea of when we are looking to transform or reinvent or reimagine something, the main thing usually it comes down to is how well do we know what we are looking to transform. So at the end of the day, that's where a lot of businesses are struggling today, even today after a couple of years, is how do they prioritize? How well do they know a workflow, a department, a role, an action? And how do we use some of these, let's call opportunities, to plug in technologies, architectures, reimagination of workflows into this mold of transformation? So that I would call the biggest hurdle at the end of the day. If it's not clear, then it likely won't have the impact or the value that and the ROI. That's usually the first challenge that a lot of organizations run into. So Neudesic tends to step in with that business value first mindset. If a workflow or a certain process is 10 steps, do we really need to automate all 10? Can that be streamlined to 3 or 5, or fully leverage technology? Do we need humans involved? That's usually where we start, and that helps solve for that. The second challenge or opportunity that we're typically seeing is the readiness of everything surrounding the decision, which is, do we have budgets aligned? Do we have priorities aligned? Consensus between business, IT, boards, CEO, leadership. That's usually where we tend to step in with that business first, business value mindset. But at the end of the day, the readiness of technology, the platforms underlying that enable that execution. Are they compliant? Are they regulatory reports ready? That's usually where, once we've decided to do something and what and why and how is defined, that consensus and readiness becomes very important, because once you remove some of those bottlenecks and anchors, things tend to move rapidly towards execution. And then the third and final pattern that we are seeing still quite a lot is in that concept of, okay, now we have so many options, so many technologies, so many products, so many agents, if I may. So how do you leverage the best of each of these areas? Best fit engineering. What's the right way to do this? That is essentially what we form under a center of excellence or a community of practice scenario, especially with Microsoft native technologies. That's where our focus has been for more than 2 decades. Is how do you leverage that core orchestration with things like Foundry or Cosmos, or even further, with data lakes and things like that, to orchestrate multiple things, multiple platforms, multiple departments, multiple workflows, multiple countries to some degree working together. So that's essentially how it goes from business alignment to consensus to essentially giving them platforms and technologies to plug and play. That ideally drives that lack of removes that lack of alignment, and then drives towards acceleration.
Got it. Yeah, I think, and I saw that Neudesic is almost everywhere in innovation drives, and Microsoft's any event. We always find that uh, IBM and Neudesic is actually all over the place. They are having a lot of innovative solutions. Yeah, awesome. Looking forward for more. So.
Absolutely.
So quickly move to the next question. How is Cosmos DB helping you address GenAI infrastructure challenges like scaling, vector, queries, and enabling real-time retrieval and supporting high throughput work?
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about the platform and the some of these complexities that we run with, concepts like sovereignty and multinational scale, and essentially solving for how real time works together with batch, and all the way um, across the globe, creating these scenarios where there's different personas uh, within the ecosystem of agents working with humans, working with power users, working with CXOs. So that diversity is usually where we bring in Cosmos, and what we've seen is that especially in this complicated architectural scenario, Cosmos fits really well because it provides that additional layer of you know providing that low latency across a global scale. Not a lot of options available at that time, especially with the native integrations that it supports, not just connections and connectors, but also creating that mindset across our architecture teams, with security first, governance first, potentially even looking at financial services as an example where it's highly regulated. You need to have that zero trust mindset and provide that at scale across multiple countries and locations with different governance rules and regulations around data. That's where Cosmos DB fits right in and allows us to not have to build a lot of these custom, but instead leverage these settings and configurations to allow for that global architecture. So Cosmos is a really good fit. One, I'll actually use a customer quote here in terms of where Cosmos has helped. The quote was, predictability at scale. So that predictable outcome with less downtime, lower costs, that's been a big issue for us with global architectures. Costs become a big challenge. So with the automation that Cosmos brings in, that itself is a huge add. So that predictability of performance, cost, and governance is a huge um, positive and a differentiator that Cosmos has helped, especially as architectures are becoming more and more and more complex in this global AI landscape.
Awesome. And yeah, then I have a follow-up question. What were some of the biggest and toughest challenges you come across while putting your Gen AI application to the production, and how did Cosmos DB is helping?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting follow-up. Specifically, I mean, we've talked about a few things, right? So, the one thing that I'll start with is, you know, a few of these areas are novel, new, um, and some parts of some of these architectures are relatively untested, especially when it comes to the impact on security, governance, scale, performance, and that's where I would say the first challenge comes in, which is predictability of how the system will perform, what vulnerabilities it will lead to at scale, and more importantly, what do businesses need to support that ongoing, that operational mindset of once I've built something, what will it take to keep it running at that performance, at that scale, at that security level. That is a big aspect, and Cosmos essentially fits right in, right, with at least that data orchestration, data layer, and then creating that augmentation of whatever your application scale, your platform scale is, infrastructure level. Right in between comes the orchestration that Cosmos brings, providing a lot of these things out of the box. The second piece at the challenge level that we've been seeing is that as the complexity of the data architectures leads to the complexities of the data sets, and then on top of it, the complexities of that AI governance that we were talking about, that is the usually the bottleneck especially at that global scale. So that is where we are leveraging um, some of our experience, specifically some pre-built assets that we have along the lines of Cosmos working in that data layer. And then the third piece is we use the word transformation and reinvention a lot, but there's a lot of clients still looking at migration, modernization, simplification of the platform itself, and that's where creating that product mindset to some degree becomes very important, and that's where the challenge today is, that where we are moving is not traditional software development, not data engineering first, and then you go into the data visualization and eventually to insights. Now businesses are looking to cut that, streamline that, and have that data product mindset, which is, hey, I have this is how my HR data operates, this is my financial data, this is my customer data, and then how do I bring them together potentially for marketing. And that's kind of how we are seeing today with these complex architectures. The business wants more agility to leverage more data that they have access to, because for whatever it's worth, a lot of companies are reimagining what products that they're serving to the market. So IT and data and some of these AI projects are no longer just for productivity benefits. They're moving very, very fast towards adding to the top line. How do we create additional revenue opportunities? How do we retain customers, cross sell, upsell to them? And then more importantly, reduce certain costs related to avoidable scenarios, so that all of that can be invested towards growth of businesses.
Awesome. And I think you're actually spot on. Uh, I have a question now, that's only, focus on business outcome now.
Yes.
So what kind of business outcome you have seen, from your all the implementations using Cosmos DB as part of your GenAI offering?
I mean, I'll share a few examples. I mean, Neudesic works with hundreds of clients across thousands of use cases. So there's a lot. Um, I was just right before this discussion, I was talking to a financial services capital markets client, and they were looking at multiple implications of this modernization journey that they're about to go through, both on internal employee and their productivity, but also in terms of how do they retain, sustain that whole investment asset management of the people that have multiple options. So businesses are reimagining a lot of what their internal structures and business models and operating models look like. Well, I'll share a couple of examples. One specifically that comes very often. Neudesic does a lot of work in the aviation and airline industry. We with last 2 to 3 years, reimagining a lot of things. But one of the first focuses was customer experience. Customer, that's I think the use case was resolution. So everything from resolution time to resolution intelligence to basically reimagining connection points actually look like. So everything from a chatbot to call center automation to now creating an entire concierge experience. So they've reimagined that entire thing where it's very proactive versus reactive customer experience. So in that scenario, working with this particular client, we were able to automate approximately 90+% of their customer resolution through this agentic model that we put together across multiple touch points, multiple channels. And that 90%, let's just say uplift has reduced costs, improved customer experience, but also they're in the news for the right reasons for the experience. So now instead of that legacy reputation of people not, let's just say, being happy about the experience of working with an airline call center or a contact center or a representative for that matter, now people are appreciating how this is proactive. So that has drastically improved their reputation as an airline. So that's one that comes up quite a lot because that's a significant uplift in just the experience of being frustrated to now being a champion of the airline. Another such example is we're doing our work within manufacturing, with field operations, with utilities organizations. And what we've done with them is that reimagined how, because there's a lot of critical decision making that needs to happen. So we've automated decision life cycle times by almost 200%. So it's gone from days to minutes, specifically connecting a lot of different data sets, everything from product manuals to employee handbooks and everything in between, and then making that very, very rapidly available. And also in some cases, we've actually narrowed down implications down to human data entry errors, where we are like, this is the predictable value, this is how different your entered data is, and this is needing an explanation. So a lot of things that used to take multiple touch points, we've reduced that, especially at that field operations level. So that's saving millions of dollars for manufacturing and utilities and oil and gas organizations. And I'll just share one more last one really quick. Across financial services, we do a lot of work with banks, insurance companies, but capital markets, where a lot of complex decisions have to be made at a global scale, with changing reforms and government regulations and data governance requirements and compliance requirements. So at that level, not just changing the way they operate, but also the cost of creating a platform. So through auto scaling and automation of the platform itself, we were able to reduce costs of just day-to-day operations, both from IT to now human plus AI orchestration by about 50% already within for the first 6 months. And it's an ongoing journey, but in the first 6 months itself, we've seen 50% reduction in costs. So I just thought I'll give you a few examples of customer experience, field operations, process reimagining, and then also operational costs as well.
Awesome. Saving of millions of dollars is actually, like a music to my ears. Thank you so much, Kunal, for answering all the questions candidly. And it was lovely to host you. Thanks a lot for coming here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I think it's now we are at my favorite section, architecture spotlight and demo. We have Abhilash Thomas for this section where he will help us understand the solution they have and provide us more details. Welcome to the show, Abhilash.
Thank you. Yeah.
And
Um,
I must tell you that Abhilash is, a innovator and leads global AI and data, technologies in IBM Neudesic. Abhilash, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Myself, Abhilash Thomas. I am the Vice President of Technology at Neudesic, an IBM company. So I help business make smarter decisions through the power of data, AI, agentic AI, and decision intelligence, right? My passion is actually innovation, especially complex technology challenges into make them into practical solutions that deliver real business impact, right? That's where actually I focus. Today, I would like to share how these innovations are actually helping, especially Cosmos DB in the context of AI workloads, how that actually helping to transform the way we live and we work actually. And that's what I'm going to share.
Awesome.
So,
thanks, Abhilash. Go ahead.
See, if you look actually, many enterprises have a lot of data, but data alone is good enough, right? So they need more actionable insights in quick and a scalable manner. And of course, security is most important, right? So if you look actually the industries from the manufacturing to the FSI or the energy or technology sector, right? Whatnot. So common pattern of actually certain use cases you can see where actually both artificial intelligence and Cosmos DB actually club together and bring value actually. For example, building episodic memory and semantic memory for copilots and agents for leading personalized experience and performance, right? This is one of the pattern we are seeing. Other one is actually real-time intelligence empowered by knowledge augmented graphs. RAG, for especially for unstructured data retrieval for the enterprises, the RAG patterns actually leveraging Cosmos DB, especially, and we are seeing actually from the cloud native event-driven architecture, enterprise level aggregations actually Cosmos DB is leveraging. So not only these use cases, right? Neudesic help many customers to empower leveraging the power of AI and Cosmos DB by creating a lot of accelerators to take that journey faster and efficient. For example, Neudesic has a accelerator called Neudesic Kinesis, which helps to convert and migrate traditional RDBMS workloads into Cosmos DB, right? And Kinesis is one of the ISV partner for the migration workloads for Cosmos DB. We have a document intelligence platform which extracts the and process the large set of documents, and Cosmos DB is the backbone of the document intelligence platform. And other solutions like Insight Crafter, which generates insight from the platform, which keeps the knowledge augmentation graph, right, in Cosmos DB. And the control tower, beyond the visualizations and dashboard on a data platform, the control tower scenario where simulations, actionable insight, what if analysis, all those things taking place by leveraging the power of Cosmos DB, so that actually the queries can actually answered in real time as well. Neudesic has another accelerator called Renova, which actually helps to migrate and modernize legacy applications into modern applications, actually, where Renova uses the knowledge extracted from the legacy code and kept as a knowledge graph on the Cosmos DB. So these are some of the accelerators which helps to leverage Cosmos DB efficiently to take the AI-driven journey for enterprises. Let me talk to actually today's topic, right? So today I am going to demonstrate a virtual copilot assistant for CXOs, right, without any dashboard, how the CXOs actually getting help from the virtual copilot by generating insight from the various enterprises applications, enterprises data sources, enterprises data platform, by generating appropriate SQL queries or API calls using the power of actually Cosmos DB. That's what I'm going to show it actually, right? This solution actually sorry for that. So this solution is actually especially empowers CXOs to take real-time business decisions. So this is a scenario where a steel manufacturing customer, right, he want to get a virtual copilot personal assistant to understand what is happening on his industry, in the plants, in the entire operation scenario, right? The benefit of this solution is actually 70% enhanced decision making, because he got real-time insight about enterprise whenever he need information are readily available, right? It improved the operation agility, right? No need to wait for actually various systems or things to act, right? There are a lot of agility in this process, right? It brings the unified insight from both structured and unstructured data. You don't need to depend multiple platforms for the same, right? And of course, the solution is actually giving proactive recommendation based on the insight from the platform, actually. Right. So let me just walk through the architecture of the solution, right? The center of the solution, of course, intelligent data platform, which could be your data lakes of the world, or even your enterprise source systems, associated systems also can be there. And then there is a semantic knowledge augmented graph got created on Azure Cosmos DB for Apache Germaline APIs are actually leveraged. That is the other side of the solution. And you can have both structured and unstructured data inside the intelligent platform. Especially unstructured data leverages the Cosmos DB vector DB, right, for fast retrieval and insight generation. Now let's understand how the system works actually, right? So basically why we need this architecture is, this knowledge augmented graph architecture is because whenever user interacts through a voice or a natural language query, that needs to be translated to a SQL query or a API call to talk to the enterprise systems or intelligent data platform or our unstructured documents DB in an appropriate manner. How does that translation graph happens? That is using the help of augmented knowledge graph actually. Now, how do we build this augmented knowledge graph? So the knowledge graphs can be built from the extracted metadata from various sources. All right, various sources means it can be enterprise sources like SAP or CRM systems or any other enterprise databases, right? It can be extracted. And the extracted metadata can be stored. Before storing, it needs to be normalized through a canonical model. Once it's normalized, it needs to be enriched actually. The enriched process, we are leveraging the power of LLMs by augmenting the business insight into associated with that metadata that got generated, and that human also can validate that generated metadata. Once the metadata generated business metadata is associated with this extracted metadata, then the next process is actually generating the knowledge graphs actually. So graph has actually entities as well as relationships, right, associated with this metadata that translated into the graph and stored it in Cosmos DB as a augmented metadata graph. Once the, as I mentioned at the beginning, once the query is actually coming from the user interfaces through a voice or a natural language way, then that voice will be translated, that query will be translated into appropriate SQL or API format, and then that query will be used for retrieving the insight from the platform. That is the approach we are actually taking. So one of the key challenge on this building the knowledge graph is actually the scalability, because enterprises has a lot of data. The metadata is scaling, the performance while retrieving the metadata or retrieving the query generation process, the performance is a key metrics. So we resolve that problem by creating a mesh architecture on the Cosmos DB by domains and subdomains, corresponding to domains and subdomains. We created specific actually containers, assigned containers, so that actually the query generation part will be faster actually. That is the approach we take it, which gives actually scalable solution which can be leveraged for enterprise across the enterprise. So let me go into the details of the demo, right? So I'll show the virtual Copilot assistant first. Then actually I will actually walk through the code actually, right? That's what I'm planning to do here actually. So let me start the demo. Let me talk, pause and talk about this actually, right? This virtual assistant, right? So it has a voice assisted interface. So even we are leveraging Azure voice translators actually to do this conversion to the text also, right? So what happening actually? User can initiate a query through the either through the natural language chat interface or the voice. Based on that query, the system will go and generate knowledge, generate the SQLs or the API calls and get the knowledge from the system, actually, insight from the system. So the queries here is actually what is the overnight production for the plant, actually, right? What is happening on the production, right? So can we get the status of the steel, stainless steel and electrical steel manufacturing? That is the query, right? So let's see actually how the system is actually bringing. So it's go and executed the query on the system. It's bringing the details, right? Looks like all the production workloads are actually normal. And so overnight production is actually healthy, and the graphs are actually showing healthy actually. There is no major issues reported on the production. So far good actually. Now the user can actually ask more questions, especially he want to check the inventory status. Inventory health is also seems to be good. That is what actually system is actually telling, right? So he is asking that question, the system is going and the system is getting the data and saying that actually inventory is good. Now let's look into another scenario where actually, so to understand the trend happening on the system as well, right? So there is a spike happened on the usage of the electricity. So the system is actually recommending the solution. Recommending the solution. Okay. Recommending the solution, right? So the Starger machine, electric usage is spike. So analyzing the historic data, so it is recommending to restart the Starger machine, so that actually the solution will be the hotfix will be done also. So from the interface, we can actually take an action. So the user can actually give a direction to go and restart the Starger machine. The action is actually taken. The communication go to the enterprise system to take it. Actually, OT system to do that actually. Now the another scenario where actually another scenario where actually right, the basically the vendor the vendor quotations, right, especially the vendor quotation on unstructured data needs to be compared and analyzed and get a recommendation from the virtual copilot actually. So there are multiple codes for forklift upgrade quotation actually, right, from various vendors. The copilot is actually the copilot is actually helping right to get that recommendation. So the recommendation is actually getting processed. Right, it is saying actually BHP, the code is actually from the vendor BHP is better because that gives actually more the cost is less and the shipping time is less, right? So that comparison is happening on the unstructured data place, right? So this unstructured data documents are actually stored on Cosmos DB, and from the Cosmos DB only it is retrieving. Now, another scenario is actually, the real-time warning actually, right? So there is a real-time alert. So there is something happening on the plant, right? There is a furnace has a little bit fan vibration is actually high, right? So the immediate recommendation is also coming on the solution. So right, so that means actually the entire action also can be taken right on real time. So let's see that scenario possible. Right.
And
Okay.
Abhilash,
So yes, recommend. Yeah, go ahead.
before, do you also have role-based access and other security also implemented in this solution?
Yes. So this is a personal virtual assistant, which is actually very much role-based because all the CXOs, they do have a different function, different preference, and they can actually really create their personalized queries. If they don't want every time they don't want to ask, they can actually finally they can go and generate a dashboard also, right? That much personalized. And because the personalized aspect is actually important, not only CXOs, the plan managers, the procurement people, all these people, they leverage this personal virtual assistant. So the data only if they have access to the relevant data, then only they can see that insight. If they don't have access to the particular data, then the response will be adjusted accordingly. So that is the beauty of the solution actually. It is completely role-based, persona-based actually. The solution is. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll move to the code walkthrough as well. Okay, let me bring the code quickly, right? So as I mentioned in the architecture walkthrough, the metadata extraction is one of the starting point, right? Because from various sources, various data lakes, fabrics, right? And even structured and unstructured data, metadata needs to be extracted. You can extract from even the ETL workloads, the enterprise systems like SAP or CRM systems, right? D365, all these places we can extract the data, metadata. Once you extract the metadata, we need to do the normalization because we need to apply the canonical rules and models, right? Once you've done the normalization, what we have to do is actually we have to augment the metadata because there is no business meaning associated with the metadata while we are extracting, right? Many times you will see actually abbreviated words, abbreviated terminologies and all, right? That doesn't have any meaning actually. So augmenting the metadata is important. So by leveraging the power of LLMs, actually we are going and generating the business meaning of the metadata that is getting generated. And this module does that actually, right? The augmentation. Once that is done, actually, we need to store the metadata into the store actually. As I mentioned, we are actually creating and storing the augmented metadata graphs into domain-driven or a data mesh, which is actually follows the domain architecture actually, right? So every subdomains has a container, so or a domain has a container, right? So the generated graph will be actually this graph will be actually stored in using that domain level actually, right? So that is what actually this module does, right? Then the other aspect is once the data is stored, actually the important aspect is actually retrieval, right? For retrieval, actually we may need to faster retrieval. We can leverage semantic index that also addressed down the solution, but otherwise multiple forms of retrieval, right? You can generate SQL queries, you can actually do the graph-based retrievals, you can do that. You can actually get a kind of blueprint generation, right? That for agentic workloads, that also you can do it actually, right? So both human queries as well as agentic queries can consume the knowledge graphs, so that actually it will generate the appropriate query or API calls to extract the insight from the enterprise data platforms actually. So that is the solution we are having. So let's look at sample solution here. Let me quickly show it. So this sample script actually extracting the metadata from the source. It is bringing various metadata, various type of metadata, all right? And once the metadata is actually extracted, it can be go and augmented using the AI modules. The augmented metadata is actually formatted into a JSON scripts, and this JSONs will be actually posted into the Cosmos DB appropriate subdomain containers actually, right? So that is what actually this module does. Let me show the view of how the knowledge graph is seeing on the Cosmos DB also, right? As you are seeing, right, you can see the knowledge graph, right? You can actually navigate through the knowledge graph also, right? In various forms, you can actually see the relationship between various entities. All those things you can see it in the Cosmos DB as well, actually, right? For human validation or testing. That's what actually I want to talk about code. So I just want to summarize at this point of time. Let me come back to the presentation, right? So basically, I'm leveraging the power of AI in multiple places. Here for enriching the metadata, I'm leveraging the AI, while actually I'm getting the natural language queries. I want to translate it into appropriate SQL or like the API calls. There I am leveraging the AI, and also I am leveraging the AI for storing the unstructured data in a Cosmos DB as a vector DB, right? So that the power of actually the vector DB also I'm leveraging here, right? So that is why this is actually in multi levels. Actually, it is combined AI and Cosmos DB. Like combined solution, and which is helping bringing the business values or actionable insight or keeping the intelligent decision making, smart decision making for the enterprises. So that's
Awesome.
what the solution is actually. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, Abhilash. One, I think you did mention you were also having a possibility to have this as a RAG pattern. I think you
Yes.
have
Yes.
possibility to connect with the existing source and can vectorize. Do you want
Yes.
to take to explain that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, actually, Neudesic has a document intelligence platform which leverage the Cosmos DBs to store the document data and extracted document data, both in the Cosmos DB, right? For example, in the demo, you see that actually the comparison of the codes, actually, right? What happens is actually from the quotations, the documents, that document will be ingested into the DIP solution, where the document intelligence solution, where actually all the relevant information is actually extracted and stored in Cosmos DB. So whenever actually a kind of query to get the details, right, it go and fetch the data in very fast manner, in sub-seconds or sub-milliseconds, in response time from the Cosmos DB and show it on the virtual assistant actually. Typically, if you are actually retrieving the document from a legacy document management system, right, first you need to retrieve the document and then you need to extract and find out the relevant information, right? Here, all these things are actually optimized by leveraging the power of the AI actually. That is why we are able to bring that data fast.
Got it. So you do uses for your vector search, you're using Cosmos DB, and
Yes.
you're basically open to get data from various sources. So that basically going to provide a benefit to the end user that they'll not need to have a new setup altogether, but they can directly connect the solution with their existing environment, and then.
Absolutely.
It will also not create a load, because anyways that persistent cache is already there in form of Cosmos DB, where
Yes.
all the solutions queries actually being executed against this database. So I think it's a very interesting scenario. Do you mind giving us a little bit more information around its security and any persistence or I'll say reliability best practices you have for this solution?
Yes, absolutely. So the entire solution is actually designed based on the personas actually, right? So we created a role-based access control across the system, from the front-end application to the back-end Cosmos DB through the Azure AD actually, right? So that means actually once the role is actually defined at AD, the entire system will work based on that role actually, right? So that is where actually multiple personas can actually leverage the solution. You will see actually the chief, the CEO get one information, then their organization information. The same time actually the country manager got his relevant information because of the role-based access control. And the thing is actually we are translating these privileges while actually we are interacting with the enterprise systems also. So you are actually going to get only relevant information from the enterprise systems because of the persona-driven role-based access control in the place actually. That is one aspect of the security. And second thing is actually we are actually we have a security module which is actually masking all the PI information, dynamically masking all the PI information, either encrypted way or you can define a custom mapping also, masking also, right? That masking and preventing from user unauthorized user access actually. That's also we are taking care. So that is the beauty of the system. So both the encryptions, right, standard, all the standard encryptions are supported actually. And Cosmos DB by itself actually at storage layer encryptions are actually already in place, so that actually the entire system and the data is also secure actually. So that's the way we are actually getting the security implemented in the solution.
Wow, awesome. Yeah, I think, and for resiliency, you anyways have in Cosmos DB, it has multi-region, right, as well as it will provide almost zero RTO and zero RPO depending upon the
Right.
configurations we are making. So yeah, I think those
Right.
options are certainly will be, and this system
Yeah.
can definitely be able to leverage.
Yeah, absolutely right. So the global deployment of the solution is actually only feasible through Cosmos DB, right? That is the important aspect, right? Because there are actually same information needs to be retrieved by personas from different parts of the region. So the multi-region, the multi-model deployment is very important for the success of the solution, and that is achieved through the Cosmos DB.
Awesome. And one last question around the futuristic aspect of this solution. So, what is the vision for this system, and do you plan to expand it a little in different industry dimension or anything else you are basically planning for this solution?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely right. As a trusted partner, we are actually already implementing this solution for different enterprises. So from manufacturing, retail, and other areas, we are actually implementing this solution, right? So it's a horizontal solution because this is actually, of course, virtual personal assistant is actually one of the solution, right? Which is, of course, following the zero dashboard concept, actually, right? The same time, there are other enterprise solutions also can leverage knowledge augmentation graph, right? Especially on the agentic automation world, agentic workloads can leverage knowledge augmentation graph because many times actually the context memory is depends upon the knowledge augmentation graph, right? Practically, context memory can implemented using that, actually, right? So most of the agentic solutions where actually can be created, the blueprints can be created from the knowledge augmentation graph, actually. So we are actually rolling out all these accelerators for our customers for free of cost, actually. So any customers, any clients want to try out these solutions, these experiences, we are happy to assistance along with Microsoft. We can bring the solution to you actually, and you can try out. And if it is successful and meaningful, you can actually adopt it to the enterprise. That's the beauty of the solution.
I think it's a delight to the ears. Thank you so much. I think it's quite a deeper solution, and I probably this will actually help in various dimensions. So yeah. Uh, Thanks, Abhilash. Abhilash, we can actually do one thing. Just stay with us. We have our next session, section called, Cosmos TV, what's hot and happening. And once it is over, then I'll come to you for all the questions we have from the audience. So, audience, please, ask questions. You can put it onto the chat, or you can submit on your form which you have submitted previously. So we'll pick up all the questions after this. Thanks, Abhilash. We'll come back to you shortly.